Hey YouTubers, it's your girl Shannon from Tesla and Chill, and it is a beautiful Sunday here in Seattle, Washington. We just got out of church ourselves, hashtag PTL. Now that we got our worship on, we figured it would be a great day to go on a test drive. And I couldn't help but do this. I know you saw it in the title already, but we are gonna go drive the Nissan Leaf. Sorry, was that too cheesy? Okay, maybe it was too cheesy. But seriously, we are gonna go drive the Nissan Leaf, and I'm super pumped about this car. A lot of you have left comments suggesting it be our next test drive, so this is for you. Now, with a name like Leaf, it's gotta be eco-friendly, am I right? And I have to say, after looking at pictures online of the first generation Leaf to the second generation Leaf, the second gen is where it's at. It just looks a whole lot better. It looks more mainstream than the first gen does. So I'm really excited about this car. It's got great reviews online. Now we are gonna get ready to go here in just a few minutes. My husband is inside changing our son's diaper. He pooped his pants. For those of you watching for the first time, our son is 11 months old, so it's still acceptable. If he were a little bit older, that'd be really embarrassing. But he is going to change the diaper, and then we are going to head out, and we will check in with you at the dealership. Here we are at the Nissan dealership. Now let's look at this Leaf. Let me flip the camera for you. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the 2019 Nissan Leaf SL Plus, and this clocks in at $44,650. That is the sticker price. Now it has 17-inch alloy wheels. It has dual power outside mirrors, an aerodynamic underbody cover, and a rear diffuser. It has the LED daytime running lights, the LED headlight and fog lights, and this beautiful paint job you see, that's something that Nissan calls their premium paint, which they actually end up charging you extra for. That costs $395. But let's continue and talk about the inside. This steering wheel is heated and leather wrapped, and you can see there are a lot of buttons on it. Now, of course, that little shifter there, that was really cool because it was almost like a video game shifter. And that screen you see, that is an 8-inch touchscreen, which offers you the Nissan door-to-door navigation with 3D graphics and satellite imagery. The software and maps, those update over Wi-Fi, and of course, the car comes complete with Nissan voice recognition. It also has HD radio and a little subscription to Sirius XM radio, which I think a lot of cars offer these days, so I don't think that's like a huge deal. And of course it comes with Bluetooth, the hands-free phone system, but I think really that's pretty standard too. Now I do like the reverse camera because as you can see, it shows you what's behind you, but on the split screen, it gives you the bird's eye view, which is something I kind of wish Tesla would do. But that console is just a little too small for me. I don't think that'll hold more than a few pens and maybe some snacks. But I do like that the back seats are leather, just like the front seats, but unfortunately, only the front seats are the ones that are heated, and only the driver's seat is the one that you can adjust using power adjustments. The passenger seat, that's a manual adjuster. So something just to consider, but not a huge deal because I don't think I really adjust seats that often. Now, since this is a Nissan Leaf, it is energy efficient, so it would only be fitting for them to include the Bose Energy Efficient Series speakers, and there's 7 of them in this car. So I think that's pretty neat because Bose usually has good quality. But switching gears here, something else that is a really cool factor for Nissan to include is kind of what Tesla does, and that's their HVAC timer, where you can preheat or pre-cool your cabin so it'll be just the right temperature when you get in the car later. Now, if you take a quick second to look at what the salesman is showing us, he's pulling up all the local charging stations that are closest to the vehicle right now. And he's showing us this because if you do buy the Nissan Leaf, Nissan will pay to charge your car for 2 years after you purchase it. And that's something that might tip the scales in their favor if you're comparing cars. Having 2 years of free charging, that's pretty awesome. He basically said what Nissan does is give you something like a credit card or gift card kind of, and you just put all the charging fees right on there. And of course, that's only really going to work at public chargers. If you decide to charge it at your house, they're not going to reimburse you for that. But if you do a lot of public charging, that could be a really big deal. And I think you could definitely save a lot of money that way. And speaking of charging, let's talk about that for a hot second, because this Nissan Leaf SL Plus has a 214 horsepower synchronized motor, or 160 kilowatts, and a 62 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. Now to charge that has a 6.6 kilowatt charge port and a 100 kilowatt capacity quick charge port. Now, you can see the charge ports right here, and of course they include the 120 volt and 240 volt charging cables. And as you can see, the charging ports are right in the front of the car. Nissan doesn't try to hide them or blend them into the body. It's right under the hood of the car, which, as you can see, once the hood is popped, there is absolutely no room for a frunk. Underneath the hood, it almost looks like an ICE vehicle with all the parts that are in there. And Nissan estimates it would take 11 hours to reach a full charge, and that's on a 240 volt. And that full charge will give you 215 miles. And that's not too bad considering the base level Model 3 has a range of 220 miles. But enough talk about that, let's look at the trunk here. As you can see, there's an ample amount of space in the back, and those back seats offer a 60-40 split where you can put those down if you need to store something longer in your car. But as you can tell, when we lifted up the floor mat, there was no underneath storage, which was kind of disappointing considering we have extra storage space in the Model 3. But just for size comparison, this is our 1-year-old who is really enjoying his time in the trunk. He's got plenty of room to move around here. But I did think this was really interesting. So rolled up in the price of the car, Nissan charges extra for the cargo net, which isn't pictured there, but there is a cargo net that you receive for $30 that's included in the price. And for the cargo area mat and the carpeted floor mats in the interior of the car, they add an extra $190 to the price. So even though it's all included in the $44,650, I did think it was pretty interesting that they had those breakdowns listed just like that as optional extras. And just to give you a side-by-side comparison, this is what the Nissan Leaf looks like next to our Model 3. And you can see the Leaf looks just a little bit higher, but the Tesla is just about 10 inches longer. Now, let's cut to this cute baby before we get to our test drive. Isn't he so precious? Okay, now let's get back to the test drive because this was really an interesting experience for me. First, though, I want to mention one of my favorite things about the Leaf, and that was probably the regenerative braking system in this car. It was so sensitive, it was so responsive, it really made one-touch driving a breeze. And there was hardly any learning curve transitioning from the Model 3 to the Nissan Leaf. And if you remember a few weeks ago, we drove the Jaguar I-Pace, and to me, that regen system was really disappointing. So in my opinion, the Nissan Leaf has Jaguar beat in this area. Now, before we move on, I want to show you something super cute, which is my baby right here. He is adorable, but let's keep talking about the rest of the drive. Some other things I really liked was, of course, that Nissan includes the pedestrian detection system and the intelligent lane intervention and blind spot warning system. And it also had the intelligent around view monitor and the intelligent driver alertness, which I really like that, and it definitely sent a good vibration through the steering wheel anytime it thought you weren't paying attention or if you were getting too close to one of the yellow lines on the side of the road. It's definitely something you would not ignore if you were falling asleep. You'd probably wake up because it was a very sharp vibration. Now, while this little man is taking a quick drink, let's talk about things that weren't quite my favorite about the Leaf. And this might be minor, but to me it's kind of a big deal. I didn't like that the Nissan Leaf had actual keys. That was probably a real downfall for me, and that's probably just something personal because I lose my keys probably like 5 times a day to my Honda Accord Hybrid. I love the fact that the Tesla's key is your phone. For me, that's just one less thing to keep track of. But again, that's just something minor, and that's just a personal preference. But another thing that was not my favorite, and I'll tell you because we're about to get on the highway here, was the ProPilot Assist with Steering Assist. So even though the Leaf doesn't have autopilot like the Model 3 does, the ProPilot Assist is supposed to help you be able to basically modulate the speeds, the braking, stay in your lane, go around minor curves, things like that. But for it to be engaged, it was just super hard to do. And you can see the salesman is trying to show me how to do it here. And you have to press 3 buttons. So first you press a button on the right side of the steering wheel, then you press a button on the left side of the steering wheel, and then you go back and press another button on the right side of the steering wheel. And there are so many buttons on the steering wheel. For me, you'd have to take your eyes off the road for a really long time to get those buttons engaged. And I'm sure once you own the Leaf and you kind of memorize where those buttons are, you could probably do it really easily. But for me, that was really just a lot of work, especially considering that I'm coming from a Tesla Model 3, where to engage autopilot, you just simply double tap a stalk on the steering wheel, and it literally takes 1 second to do that. And the Leaf here, it was just really complicated. But not only was it pressing a lot of buttons, but the car was having a lot of trouble recognizing the lines in the road, so it really wouldn't even turn on half the time. So considering how advanced this car can be in some areas, seeing that it was lacking so much on the technological front, where it was really having trouble just recognizing lines on the highway, that was really disappointing for me, because even though this is a 2019 car, it already seemed like it was behind the times. So that was just probably one of the biggest downfalls I had when driving the Leaf. You can see even throughout our drive, the sales guy tried to reach over several times to push the buttons himself, but we still had trouble engaging that ProPilot assist. But overall, the Nissan Leaf definitely had a whole lot of positives to it, and I was super impressed with this car. I think this would honestly be a really good contender if you just did not like Teslas. But we are going to head back to the dealership here and finish up this test drive, so sit back and enjoy the rest of the ride. And you and I will sit down together once the ride is over, just to wrap things up. Okay, you guys, I just got back home and you just saw what the Nissan Leaf SL Plus has to offer. And I have to say, wrapping up here, I was really impressed by the Leaf. You could almost say I was blown away. You could call it a leaf blower. Okay, too cheesy. But seriously, I was really surprised by this car. If you are in the market for a commuter car, or even if you do some light traveling, this could be a definite option for you. Now, for us as a growing family of 3, I don't think it's the perfect fit at this time, but if I were in the market for a Leaf, let's look at a few more of these details here. Now, the SL Plus was listed right around $45,000, really around $44,000 to be exact. Now, for that kind of money, if I were considering the Leaf, I might want to consider the SV Plus. Now, the SV Plus still gets the same 215 miles of range, but for making simple trades, like cloth seats instead of driving on leather seats, you could be saving a few $1,000s, and that's definitely worth it in my book. But overall, if you are hell-bent on not getting a Tesla, the Leaf is definitely a great possibility to look into. Well, those are just a few of my final thoughts here. If you have a car that you think we should drive next, just drop it right in the comments below. And thanks for watching this time. We'll see you again soon.